Okay, I think we're live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's office hours. My name is Sofia. I'm Uxcel's community manager and your host for today. Today, we have a special guest for our office hours, and that is Matthew. He is a design lead at the CME, and he is a UXL instructor. He created with us the course, the Product Development Lifecycle Methodologies. And in the next 45 minutes, actually, you'll see a live walkthrough of how Matthew is using UXL with his design team. We'll talk about how it helps them with upskilling and their career growth, but also him as the manager, how he tracks all the learning, how he assigns learning, and how it helps him manage his team. We've saved the last 15-ish minutes to answer any of your questions. So feel free to ask anything, Matthew, or if you have any product questions as well, feel free to post it in the chat and we will get to it by the end of the session. But before we start, I see the number of you coming in is growing. So this is just a quick reminder that this is a live session. It's interactive. We love to make it interactive and to talk to you. So feel free to let us know your name and where you are tuning in from. Also, how are you using your Excel? Share it in the chat and we can get started. Matthew, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you, Sophia? I'm good. How are you?
Doing well and very, very excited for this session.
Thanks.
It will be a short one, but very, very nice and insightful. So, to get started, you will be talking a little. We will first start with a short conversation about how you got started with UXL, why you got started. After that, you will show us how you use it, and after that, we have the Q&A. So, for starters, what prompted you to make learning and upskilling in your team a priority in the first place?
Um, Good question. So I guess, well, for me and maybe the generation of designers that came in the 2000s, the data was everything related to UX was still scattered on the internet. You couldn't get good knowledge. We were self-learners for UI UX. Either somebody came from graphic design or from computer science. So the struggle was real. And when I became in a position of influence, and I'm lucky to be here, I kind of knew that I want to find the most structured way for designers to become upskilled and not be as random as it was for me. In addition to that, of course, at CME we have a structure we need to follow. We have to, in addition to having a career path plan, we have to have core competencies that can be proved through coursework. So that, and the fact that I want all the designers in my team not just to grow within the company, but also to grow on a career level and feel motivated to bring that work personally into the community. I think that was like the strawberry on the top.
Mhm. So, when you got started with with trying to find a solution for your team, how
Mhm.
did you end up finding UXL, and what problem were you trying to solve?
I think it was like 4 years ago, so quite a while, but passed through quickly. I was talking to one of the senior designers on my team, quite younger than I am, and I know that he's like into tools, and he was interested to like bring that part of the curriculum into light. And he was stumbled upon UXL, and first it was like, can I get a subscription for this? I'm like, sure. And then he's like insisting, I just wanted to show it to you in person. So when he came to the office, we sat together, and I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. And I had an issue because you talked about like my struggles before, is that there are very good platforms out there for UX. There's like Interactive Design Foundation. You have the NNG group focused on research and whatnot. But uh, those platforms have content that need more focus, more time, that need a lengthy commitment from the designers to achieve progress. And so I was like, here I have a platform that's divided the courses into bite-sized learning modules that kind of give you a success metric on the other side, one that can be managed by me as a team lead, because in other software you can't do that. And two, and I know there's a lot of seniors and leads here that might benefit from this, Uh, and I guess the second part was that there's the theory part and the quiz part of the courses. So if somebody had the foundation for a specific skill, but I want to see the output or the outcome of their knowledge compared to what Excel is offering, I would just tell them, you know what, don't read the theory, go through the quizzes, tell me how much you scored. Let's see if you need a more advanced course or you need to read the theory. And it kind of places them in a busy environment where like clients are constantly calling them, they have deliverables. So this mix of your client facing, your seniors, most of them, and then at the same time, I need a way to measure quickly what they're doing was captured in Excel.
Great. Okay, and so far it's been 4 years, right? And would you
Yeah.
say that you are also an active learner yourself?
Yeah, sometimes I'm a bit competitive or curious for that matter, like how much can I score on this, like because when you become in a leadership position, you kind of fall back on strategy management, recruitment and whatnot, and then you're like, are my skills still as sharp as they think they are? So yes, I look for the advanced courses and I work backwards as I feel I'm a bit weak somewhere.
Mhm.
uh, and I do try stuff out, especially new modules, because I want to see how I can map that to the team. So it also comes in handy for me to try it firsthand.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you, Matthew. And now, if you would like to share with us a little bit about, you have this whole structured learning path for your team, depending on their levels. So I would love to get to know it a little bit better. And if you want, you can share it with the rest of us.
Sure. So I'm kind of going to give you guys a brief look behind the scenes of what I do for the team career path in our company. But of course, this is not cut in stone. You can modify this as you see fit. Feel free to take a screenshot if you're interested to keep a reference. I'm just going to explain the structure, then kind of tell you where the UX courses are in the structure, Excel courses are, and then we'll map the logic behind the placement. So on the rows, we have the competencies. So you go from visual down to leadership and management. So they go from basic knowledge of UI UX design up to UX leadership. And on the column level, you have the different seniority levels, going up from associate to principal, or you guys might call it junior to lead. It's the same thing. And first thing I want to point out to you is you might notice that there's a specific trend. First, that there's a diagonal going downwards. So it seems that as you go from junior to leadership, your skills go from more technical to more strategic skills. And that's why you see, for example, that leads don't have any more need to go over visual or UI or the X design skills. And there's another thing you can notice, that seniors mostly have the most work to do, and then you pan outwards, and the other counterparts have less work to do as you work out. So why is this the case? Seniors have more time in their levels, so seniors can spend up till 5 years in their levels, whereas juniors have 2 years on average spent in their level. So one, they have less time to work on upskilling, and juniors plus mid-level designers usually learn by practice and comparing themselves to seniors, as well as being monitored and evaluated constantly by seniors. They have a tag-along buddy, somebody who can mentor them, and in tandem with the courses they get in the period of they spend within a level, then that's enough for them. Also, seniors and usually in client-facing tech service providing company, clients ask for seniors directly. They're on a budget. They know they need good quality. They don't want to repeat the work twice, and they want somebody to deal with on calls that's mature enough and able to carry on a discussion on a product level. So I wanted to create a senior level curriculum that if a senior joined CME without passing through a junior and a mid-level phase, they can grab these courses and these career paths and kind of level up and ensure that they covered part of this and leveled up on the senior skills that they need to take to client work. So that's the explanation of the architecture of the page. Now let's kind of dive into what you're seeing. So all the green highlighted courses are your Excel courses. So I just made this clearer to you guys so you can spot them. And I don't mean courses, maybe like learning content, because we have four different types of modules that I'm using here from Uxcel. First, you have a brief, which is a homework. You can see one brief here, like design a responsive landing page. And this is a good exercise for a junior because I want them to actually get their hands dirty instead of drowning in theory. And the second type of content you have is a lesson. And a lesson, think about it as a short bite-sized article, an 18 to a 20-minute read to tell you how much it takes to read on Excel. And these are good for introducing yourself to a concept and then deciding with your lead if you need to dive into it deeper or if you're interested to dive into it deeply. And then we have courses, which are a group of lessons. And these group of lessons have a certificate at the end. And usually there are lessons that come in chronological order that help you understand something like typography and color psychology. A side, um, a side note here is that, for example, visual design is a shared competency between UX, UI designers and graphic designers. So and these four levels have to go over this, whether they're visual designers or UXers or whatnot, they are the fundamentals. So once you do color and typography, you can focus on UI designer career path, and that's the first type of module. So we have brief, lesson, course, and finally career path. And as you know, career paths are a group of courses that come together to ensure that you're achieving kind of a more specialist approach or specialist title. So you can be a product designer, more of a UX UI designer, or just focus on a UX career path. In our team, we have a specific way we do this. Let's focus on this line here, row number 7. Notice that the career path for a junior starts only on beginner lessons in this module, in this career path, sorry. And then a UX UI designer at level 4 would take the intermediate lessons, and finally the senior will take the advanced lessons. So I'm ensuring that the juniors are not getting too busy with complex skills they don't need. And I'm ensuring any senior that joins later in their career path doesn't have to go over beginning classes. So how do you see this on your Excel? You open the career path, which is your UX UI designer. And if you scroll, you're going to notice that the difficulty is labeled on each module, course, or assessment. And for example, I prepared this fast ChatGPT table that shows you the UX UI designer course. And you can see that beginner, intermediate, bonus they differ, but the most types of courses existing in modules are the intermediate ones, which makes sense to me. And then when people cross this section, there's the UX design career path. So in the junior level, we're not focusing too much on UX except the beginning basic modules. So when a designer becomes a mid-level designer, I can show you that the UX design career path, which is the green one, will introduce new modules that don't exist in the UI UX career path that focus more on research, qualitative assessments, A/B testing, workshop facilitation courses, because mid-level designers, especially towards the end when they're about to switch to seniors, start getting exposed in not necessarily the traditional idea of design thinking workshops, but maybe they're ideating with a client, or they need to moderate some type of persona generating sessions. It comes handy here. Service design, although let's say a client doesn't need it, it's good to understand the business perspective or all the channels around your product and how they function. And finally, when you become a senior and you've finished intermediate advanced here, and you finished advanced here, and by the way, when you become at the level of a senior, the advanced courses aren't a dozen courses, so you'll be finished by this quickly. We get to product designer, which also I guess there's only a few extra courses for advanced users, and these would would include reducing churns and a few other ones on the top. Okay, and so when they take it, the most interesting addition to this course that I added lately was the product manager career track. Okay, so what's this about? It's about opening up senior developers, senior UX designers to understand how they might shift their careers once they go up to leadership. So not everybody wants to become lead designers. Some people want to focus on product management more, ownership. Some people just want to remain technical people and not touch people management or people communication in any way. And recently, the product manager track on UXL has offered me the help I need to introduce people to a product management career track. And this is what people have been trying to do now, just to discover that option. And that's where most of the seniors might spend their time before they switch into their leadership positions. And some notable mentions here is that I introduced 2 AI courses from UXL and the senior level, and the seniors can figure out the workflows and decide what to teach the less junior folks. And if a junior designer finishes some courses and still has time on their hand, nothing limits them on leveling up from other tracks. Finally, in leadership, you notice the focus shifts completely to management and leadership. And we start discussing more entities like leadership mastery, cross-functional design and product teams, because that's where you start merging both disciplines. And I need a post leadership score of advanced for them to prove that they've mastered the leadership content on UXL, because leadership is a big thing. You can't master it completely. It's always constant learning. But for those who don't know what Pulse is, so in every career track, you'll notice in the career path, these are the 3 career paths I mentioned now, minus the product management. The second module is a Pulse exam. And the Pulse exam is basically a quick assessment, takes 25 minutes from any designer, whether they're joining new or not, probably repeated annually, recommended, that kind of places their skills on a map that can help them understand what's happening, where their skill gaps are, and me as a lead understand where I should strengthen these resources. So in this case, this is one skill graph for attempt 1 of a skill graph, skill pulse for somebody in the team, and skill gap leadership is still low. It happens that this person is still a mid-level designer, so that doesn't concern me much. But if you're towards the senior level, switching to leadership or have the interest to take on more leading roles, then I would expect this to get filled and moved into your strengths. So this is a way to read your pulse chart, the pulse report. And I think that's about it for the career structure. But definitely, anybody who wants to ask questions, we can get back to that later. I want to shift focus, to your next question, probably, Sophia, if you want to focus on something specific, I have a few things ready.
Definitely. So you've shown us a little bit about the pulse and how you use the skill graph. Just one note from me here is that while you cannot see on Matthew's screen the name of the person, when you have manager access, you can see and track the pulse assessments results from your team members, and that way you can also see how they perform, what is their strength, what is their weakness. Also, as Matthew is going to show you, you can see where exactly they made a mistake and what the correct answer is. That way you can dive in a little bit deeper into what exactly they might be great at and what they need to improve on. And Matthew, maybe you can tell us how you use these reports for yourself or in your one-on-one conversations with your team, or maybe even performance reviews.
Yeah. So like pulse guides me, think of pulse exactly what it is. It's just an underlying feeling of what's happening annually with these designers. So when I'm accessing annual evaluations, I tell the team to try and take polls an updated version so we can kind of diff it, because I can change attempt one to attempt two here once it's ready. Okay. And as you said, a person's name will appear here. So this is one person's pulse exam. I removed it just so that it stays anonymous. So pulse is used annually, but skill graph is used maybe once or twice a month, if you want to talk about that, Sophia, in terms of evaluation.
No, sure.
So
Sure.
maybe I
Let's,
can talk about
yeah.
skill graph. So again, if you're a team lead, administrating you Excel, you can choose your team from here. And on the left, you have reporting. And in this list that I've anonymized now, so it's empty, you would have all your team members listed. And then if you select one member, their name appears here. And next to it, you will get this chart, a web-like chart with all the skills scattered. Notice that somehow it correlates. I can like create virtual groups and assess them here. So I usually have this kind of perception of what the skills are trying to offer because I built the program myself. And every 2 weeks we have one-on-ones. So a team member and me, if I'm the person leading them directly. And in this 15-minute call, we're usually discussing, part of the call is discussing how's your learning going? Where do you feel there's gaps? Have you required a skill with the client and you didn't feel comfortable with that skill, or do you feel there's room to understand it further? This is where the skill graph comes in. But what happens is that before the one-on-one, maybe a minute or 30 seconds before I go in, I'm just checking the skill graph and trying to understand the changes that are happening and reading it. So how do I read it? Initially, there's a few considerations you have to take when you're looking at the skill graph. One, what are the interests of this designer? So is he more into user research? Are they more visual? Are they seniors who tend to mentor and lead that often? Because that trend, you're going to see it appear in the skill graph, because they're going to favor taking courses or starting with modules or taking extra modules, extracurricular on Uxcel that feed their interests. So that's one thing. Two, what are they learning? Because that's also going to tell you what they need in the job, especially if it doesn't align with their interests. And three, I have to keep in mind, where are we going? So with this designer, so what are we trying to achieve in terms of their career goals? So those are three things to keep: interest, influence, and direction. What am I doing with this designer? So this specific designer, this is a real designer. This is a skill graph of an actual person in the team. They have a psychology background. They came into UX from that background. They understand user behavior really well. Their mindset is a bit omnipresent. They don't only think about design, but they also think about the product as a whole and how it merges into different channels. So you can see the spike in user research and product thinking is very obvious. Okay, and it's polar, so they're both big. And when he joined the team, you can see how directly user research and product thinking took a big hike, because he directly tested himself on these skills. It's easy for him to get the certifications. It's fast for him to go through the quizzes without the theory. And then the second part of this replay, so there's a replay button, obviously, for somebody who doesn't know. You can replay the growth per skill over time. You notice that some of his work moved to interaction design, and some of it also moved towards product design and design leadership. So why? So in the first interest bump, we saw it in the initial go. The second go was client influence. So one client needed a gamified interactive insurance app. So this resources, let's call him Edward, for example, took interaction design and started focusing on what he can learn in that domain and bring back to the table as he was designing the UI. And because he joined another client recently that, lucky for him, needed user research, and that was where his interest came handy, and that's why I personally assigned him to that client. He was able to match his skills to the client and do really well, eventually becoming a lead requested specifically from the client. And that's why lately he's being focusing on design leadership, and he's going to continue to focus on leadership as well as he goes. So what happens in the one-on-one is we assess it the same way I just discussed it with you. I try to analyze it with him. Does it really represent your mental model of where you are? And finally, where do you want to go? Like, what are you seeing? He could tell me, I love this client. I think in 2 years I'm done with research. Maybe I change the client. Maybe I have another opportunity. I just want to focus on content strategy. It's a niche not a lot of people are doing. Then the call would end with, look, if you're saturated with leadership and user research, let's kind of find what content strategy work you can do. And we just stretch that up. Can I give one more example for another resource? If you have a question, Sophia, go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at the questions we have from the viewers. But we still have a few minutes before we head into Q&A, so feel free to show.
Yeah, yeah, I think we can do that. A few minutes and I'll be done. So this is another resource. I just chose a different category altogether here. So let's watch it replay. So I'll give you a second to figure out interest, influence, and direction. So obviously, it's more of a UI designer that came here, architect background, knows visual design well. The first thing I noticed is they jump on their comfortable skills. So in this case, it was visual design, interaction design, taking a big shot. Okay. And later, as I sat with her on one-on-ones, I discovered she has much more potential understanding the product as a whole. She had very good communication skills that could improve if she like broke her character more and was more confident on calls. And so product thinking and design leadership, especially product thinking, you can see expand here, was something that helped her level up from a mid to a senior. Like I could clearly see it. I started to get great responses, Sophia, from clients. I know this is always an important question for you. How do I base my skill graph readings and how do I bring like client feedback into the calls? um, I watch where the client feedback is hovering. Is it hovering over a strength she has, or is it hovering over a weakness? And then we can validate. She can validate that with me because sometimes the client might not understand the product, and it's not the resource's fault. But if it is, and take fault with a grain of salt because it's not negative, we can
We can
redirect
read.
the force in some place. So design leadership is in her interest now, and this is getting pushed out. But there's one thing to note here as well. Content strategy took a big jump when this resource started working on Arabized UI. So we were building mobile apps for English and Arabic audience at the same time, and translating strings and finding better content tone of voice and whatnot for both languages. She excelled on that skill as well. I'll end it on a small note, and this is a module I'm discovering recently more. I mean, I know it existed, but I'm trying to use more, which is assignments. And if your team is in-house, probably less like mine, and you're building a product in-house and you know your schedule, you know how the team functions, and you can actually allocate time for learning, assignments might be the thing for you because you can choose a course and assign it to your team members like UX Design Foundations. Of course, there are names here that I removed. You can give them a specific deadline and you can see who's completing which course. This is just going to help you a little bit more governing the progress of your team and a little bit more taking notes and following up in one-on-ones since they're logged in the system and not in your personal notepads. So I think that's about it. Hopefully that was insightful. I'm ready and excited to take questions. Hopefully I can add more to my perspective of things.
No, definitely. Matthew, before we jump into the Q&A, I actually wanted to ask you that have you finally added your own course to the learning path for your designers?
Yes, it's part of the product management stream that comes in at the senior level. So part of the product management UX career path, if you open it, you're gonna find my course is the second course. I wasn't going to push my agenda onto them in the beginning and say, look, go take my course and whatnot. But as I found more designers picking up the course without telling me, maybe they were curious because I wrote it, but also obviously they wanted to learn more. Uh, I brought that back into the pool of courses they can take. Product development lifecycle and methodologies might not be the obvious choice for me to write, but based on the conversation I'm having now. But obviously, I've spent the last 15 years in and out of product and done product management several times. And since I'm on the boundary of UX and product development lifecycle, I understand the impact of understanding how a team and a product grows in parallel, how the effort starts from a small idea, changes into competitive studies, and then moves into an MVP. And when I'm saying these terms, you might think, yeah, well, we already do that in UX. That's true. We share the same terms in product development, except in the product perspective, we're more focused also on the business part of stuff, not only on defending or understanding or building for a user, but also understanding how does the business play a role here? What are we expecting at different stages of the business growth, especially as designers? And the good thing, I was able to write this course with designers in mind, and since you excel as a platform for designers first, you will benefit a lot from looking into the product lifecycle from a talent perspective. I think it's interesting. You can start with the first few lessons. If it's your thing, pick it up. Definitely, you learn a lot. And as I said once on LinkedIn, like a lot of people have been giving me great reviews. Wasn't honestly expecting the response, but I'm happy. And now I'm writing another course. Hopefully, that would be also beneficial in another way.
It will be definitely. And I hope that we will be able to share more info about it soon. But one thing before we jump into the Q&A, and everyone, the Q&A time is officially now. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them. That is to give some context about your team as well. For those who have been listening, your team is not fully in house. You work with clients. So has the results from their polls, or maybe even from the skill graph, have you used it before to maybe make decision who would be best for some projects?
Yeah, the kind of implicitly didn't
Mhm.
mention this. I thought that we can infer it. Yes, you see, it doesn't happen that like I get a request from a client and then I'm going through all the skill graphs and trying to find like who's good at user research. It's the constant review of the skill graph with the team. Sometimes I don't have to open the skill graph on the call with them. I kind of check it a few seconds before I go in. I'm up to date what they're doing, and then I can direct. But the fact that I'm always aware, I know their strengths by heart now. Like, okay, there are 15 people in the team, but I almost tend to know that this is more of a research person. This is more of a. But when I might use it is, let's say, I don't have any A-star players on research, and everybody's occupied, and I got a new client, and I need to pull somebody new into that client's pool. What do I do? Of course, I'm going to go to the UXL career skill graph and check who's the upcoming star that can maybe try there, and therefore it can play a role for you to win a client. It has at least once been the case, by the way. In service design, I felt that we were getting a service design client, and I felt that this person has like all the content ready, but they just need to launch a few courses and they'll be there. And they were able to upskill in the month that took us to mobilize with the client. So they were ready by the time we went to the client.
That's really great. No, thank you. And I'm glad that there are more than one use to the skill graph for you and your team. We have one question from the audience, and that is from Sath. Thanks, Matthew, for presenting the file. I found it so much. I found it useful for myself, who wants to grow my career in UX further. Would you be able to share the file? I'm not sure if you're fully comfortable with sharing the file, but perhaps we can share your recommendations for each level.
I don't mind sharing that screenshot. I mean, it's fine. I can possibly export it in some way and send it to you, Sophia, or on the chat. It's up to you. Which one's more comfortable?
We can send it in the follow-up email. So I will pull
Mm,
out the courses and the screenshots so that you can find everything on one and easily access it. So no worries about that. Just Matthew,
yeah,
that you're fine with that. And this might
yeah,
be a start of your curator career.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Seth. Let's see if there is anything else for now. Nothing, which might be a good signal that everything was very clear and that your use case was clear. Um,
Great.
which is always great. So to wrap up the session, then, if we don't get anything, I wanted to ask that let's say that another design lead watching this video wants to adopt your approach. What's the one rule or one habit that you'd strongly recommend them?
Uh, I think for if somebody wants to really pull you Excel, you mean specifically into their bucket of tools, I think you should try to start one, maybe a few things. Start it on yourself first. Like take a silent 1 month alone with you Excel, because the moment you start dipping your feet into managing a team on you Excel, you become on the back seat. It's too hard to manage it and try it at the same time. So like take an onboarding feel of it as a user, as an end user, then start bringing your team in. And before you start on your Excel, while the team starts onboarding on your Excel, just run the pulse in the very beginning. Get a sense of where the skills are, and then in your one-on-ones, ask them what they like to do, where they see their career going, and then just do a small comparison between their skill gaps and where they think they're going mentally, and that's how you can start advising them where to go on your Excel. And finally, as a tool itself, just keep an eye. I found that sometimes there are courses released. If I don't see my email that much, I could miss courses, and the courses get added to Career Pass. So probably just being vigilant of getting a summary of your Excel emails on what's new. It's really influencing me because sometimes I feel that people have stagnated, and then I see a course that becomes relevant to them just pop out of anywhere, like the product management course in general.
We do inform all the users via email. Of course, another way for you and your team to stay informed is via Discord. There you can connect with the rest of the UXL members. We have over 6,000 members there, and it's a good way for you to connect with, other learners, but also to keep up with the news. Um, Great advice,
I should
Matthew.
definitely
And I really like that you are emphasizing like taking the pulse first. I think Pulse is something that even individual users can start with when it comes to UXL, because you get a clear overview of what you are good at, what you need maybe to improve, and align it with your direction. It also shows you actual courses we suggest based on your skill graph. That is something you can, if you don't have yet an idea of how you want to build this for your team, you can start with that and do it on a hyper individualized, personalized level, and then build it up for each and every structure level like Matthew does. um, if you are interested in starting UXL, feel free to drop us a message, and let me check once again. That would be it for the Q&A as well. So Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope this was also fun for you. And of course, if anyone wants to connect with Matthew via LinkedIn, we will leave his profile in the follow up email. So feel free to stop by and say hi.
Well, thanks for the conversation, by the way, and thanks for everybody who joined. Hope to see you again.
Thank you.